I'm adding to my slow stitched journal scroll today. I'm extending my scroll by adding more felt backing, and then I'm stitching the word bloom to invite springtime. Now keep watching to find out what I have planned coming up in the month of March. I'm so glad you're here. Let's get started. I started stitching the 2026, and I've added some dark blue around these orange pieces. That adds some more texture and blends it into the background. And I did the same thing here with this brown patch, bringing in some of that dark blue floss and stitching around the edges. And then in my previous video, I'd stitched a heart. And I'm going to link to that video so you can have a look at that in case you missed it. And I surrounded that heart with that beautiful blanket stitching, creating that nice lattice-like border. So what I've added since then is some blanket stitching in that bright orange color along the top. And then I've joined an entirely new section onto my scroll. So you can see at the back where it's joined, and I'm going to show you how I did that. So I got my new piece of felt, and it's exactly the same size as the previous piece of felt for my scroll, and I'm simply coming in and stitching from one side to the other, and then moving down and stitching right across, joining those two. Really simple stitch. And that's all that's really needed here because I'm going to be adding stitch and collage on top, and that's going to help secure those two pieces together. So I just stitch right across, making sure that I don't pull too tight because I don't want any distortion. Just want those to be gently joined. And then after I've made my way from the top to the bottom, I can turn and go back and stitch in between those original stitches. Again, not pulling too tightly and just going back and forth a little ways and then knotting off. So there's my join, and then I can flip my piece over and continue adding to this scroll. So I can take another piece of this dark blue and continue, or I can switch up the colors. So I'm going to bring in this lighter blue, and that's going to create a slightly different look to the background, and that's going to help me transition to a new color. I can just place that piece of fabric on and build my collage from there, or I can fold those edges under and stitch them down. Either way is fine. So I've folded my edges under and tacked them down. You can see that here on the back. And now I can just continue building this collage, adding to this scroll. So let's take a look at what I've done. So on top of that blue piece, I've added some more pieces of collage in this bright green color and more of that dark blue. And then I added this bright orange piece of felt. And if you remember, on my other journal project, I had used some of this orange felt to stitch a heart. So I had this small piece left over, and I decided to use it here. And I cut it out in the shape of a bee. And I've added some leaf motifs on top. I've stitched that down. And then I decided to stitch the word bloom. So that big orange piece is my bee. And I've added the letters. And then I've continued with that white running stitch behind everything. And so that's echoing back to what I've already done. And that adds some continuity to my scroll. And now I'm free to move along, working on this green to add more collage and more stitch. And one of the things that I've done, because now my scroll is starting to get long, is I've used a safety pin and I've rolled up the part I'm not working on and just pinned it in place. It's really easy to just pull that out when I want to add more, and I can flatten that out and continue to work. And I could also do that on the other end where I've already stitched. And probably I don't want to use a safety pin there just so it doesn't catch any of my stitching. So in that case, I'm going to use a clip. So I have a Wonder clip here. You could even use any kind of clip that you have. It doesn't have to be one that's made for stitching. And so I can clip that and then go back to my other side and put my safety pin in place. And I can just work on this one section at a time. And that way when I'm stitching, I don't have all that extra fabric to worry about. So what are you going to do in your next part of your journal scroll or your journal page? I thought what I would do for the month of March is I would add some prompts. So every week there's going to be a different prompt, and that could be a jumping off point for your stitching. I'm going to put the list up here if you want to screenshot it and have it for yourself. And if you're signed up for my newsletter, I'm going to include this prompt list for March in my newsletter as well. So I hope this has given you some ideas about how to add to your project. And I'm hoping that we're going to be able to have fun with these prompts in the month of March. Thank you so much for joining me today. Until next time, happy stitching.